Michelle, are you on board too?
Yes, sir.
Any public comments this morning or not?
Give me 1 second.
Morning, Tony.
Morning, Dave.
Morning, Rodney. Carrie Ann, Deb.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dave.
Everything well in Grass Lake, Rodney?
As far as I can tell, the sun's still coming up.
That's good. That's the side of the county, right?
That's right.
I don't think you have any public comment. I think there's just Jeremy. Is Jeremy on the agenda today? Jeremy Burns from the district court?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. No public comment this morning.
Perfect, thank you. Morning, Corey.
Morning.
I'm showing 8 o'clock, people. I think we have all our committee members here, if I'm not mistaken. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Michael, you ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. First up, we're looking for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Motion
Support.
by Bill, seconded by Tony. Any changes or corrections? Hearing none, show the sign, please, for approval. Okay, passes unanimously. Public comments, Michelle, still no public comments?
No public comment.
Okay. Public comment is closed. Takes us to committee items, the minutes from the September 8th meeting. Any need for changes or corrections? If not, a motion's in order.
Move to approve the minutes. From the
Moved by
September 8th
Tony,
meeting.
supported by Rodney. All those in favor signify by showing the sign. Motion approved. Bill, that was an approval on your part too. I didn't see anything from you. Are you frozen?
Yes.
Okay. Takes us to the Animal Shelter Quarterly Report. Lydia, are you here somewhere? Hello, Lydia. I don't see her on the panelist or attendees.
I can text her if you'd like.
Yeah, why don't you do that? We'll move on and keep bumping her until she shows up. Takes us to the Circuit Family Probate Courts General Statistics. Is anybody here from Circuit Courts? Mike? Looks like not.
Lydia just joined. If she's getting on now.
Okay. Deb, maybe you can check while Lydia's giving her report and see if anybody from Circuit Court's going to show. Good morning, Lydia.
She's still getting on.
Okay. Hello, Lydia. why don't we, while we're waiting for Lydia, maybe she's having problems. Jeremy, are you still there?
I am.
Why don't we move down to item D, the district court semi-annual report? And it is on board docs. And Jeremy, why don't you go ahead? Well, I say it's on board docs, but the link is there for D12. If you want to give us a quick rundown, Jeremy, that would be good.
Yep. Good morning, commissioners. So all of our reports monthly are always uploaded onto that link. So you're more than welcome to look at any of our reports, usually up by the 10th, 15th of every month. So wanted to just talk to you a little bit. We are below both revenue and expenses this year, and it's directly tied to COVID. When we look at our caseload, we're about 3,800 tickets lower than where we are traditionally this time. And again, as we've talked about in the past, and Tammy's talked about, each ticket is equating to about $125 a ticket. So right there is about $484,000 of lost revenue, as well as we're about 2,500 cases below in our civil department. That is heavily due to the landlord-tenant moratoriums that have been placed by the state, as well as then most recently federally. So we have seen a large decrease in that, which has resulted in our overall lower than revenue expected at this time. That being said, the work that we've done in May, June, July, and then August with furloughs, and then the work share, we feel like has also helped keep our expenses down during that time too. We've been doing a lot with trying to plan and keep the building open amid the COVID restrictions and SCAO's guidelines. We're utilizing digital check-in. Anybody that comes into the building has to check in digitally and then called into the court or the services that are being provided. And still working on all the glitches similar as what we've had this morning already of just Zoom and the new world of virtual and technology. And so I just want to, Michelle and her team has been great as we've tried to figure that out. At any one time, we may have 11 courtrooms running virtual, and it has eaten up a lot of the bandwidth. But that's part of doing business for us to keep open. Also, as we've looked at our guidelines and opening up, I just really want to give kudos to Rashmi and the health department and the guidance that they have been giving us and helping us guide along the way and making sure that we can keep the doors open safely, as well as keep customers as they come in and safe as well. So those are just some of the highlights. Of course, there's a lot of other things within our reports. If you had any questions.
Jeremy, I've just got one question. Would it be difficult to actually include the reports in board docs? Or I know it's easier just to put a link there, but I have gone and looked at the reports, but I'm trying to click on the link right now on my iPad, and it's not a clickable link that I can make work. And I think it would be easier if we actually had the reports with board docs. Is that something that would be difficult or easy to do?
That's fine. We can do that.
Mike, are you okay with that? I think Mike is. He's turning away. So, okay. Commissioners, any questions of Jeremy on the report? Raise your hand if you do. Bill.
Yes, are we still, I think I heard that we are doing court appearances by Zoom still?
So the directive from the SCAO, State Court Administrator's Office, by direction of the Supreme Court, is that as much as possible is to remain via virtual. Now, we are also having both in-person and virtual hearings. So it's really up to the parties on whether they want to come in or if they choose to remain virtually. There are some cases and hearing types that are just rather difficult to conduct virtually, and the parties decide to come in for them.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions, commissioners? Okay, Jeremy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lydia, are you on board now?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Great.
Fire away with your quarterly report. You still there, Lydia?
Okay. So do you have can you all see the slideshow in front of you?
I don't see it as a screen share, but I do have it up out of board docs. There you go. Looks like somebody's
Okay.
setting it up.
Great. Well,
There
thanks
it
for,
is.
oh, great. Thanks for taking the time to have me at the meeting today. I'm glad to be here. I hope everyone's doing well. We're going to talk about our third quarter for 2020. As we mentioned last quarter, the estimates for the building project came in quite a bit higher than what we were expecting. After discussions with Deborah and Mike, we are going to hold off and revisit the building construction in 2022 so that we can put more capital aside to make the building the right way and make sure we're not cutting corners in not really necessary places such as the HVAC and other important items that need to be done here.
Lydia, may I ask a question here?
Go ahead,
Absolutely.
Tony.
The construction cost estimate came in at higher than estimated. Can you tell me who provided this construction cost estimate? Well, maybe you don't even need to tell me. Don't put them on the spot. Let me rephrase that question. Can we keep track of who is providing construction cost estimates for us? And if there is a pattern of underestimating costs, maybe we need to give that person some help, some assistance. Maybe we need to update their construction cost estimating software or tools that they have. But if we can keep track of if someone is consistently underestimating, let's do something to help them so we get more accurate estimates. That's all.
Got it. We can do that. Sure.
If I may interrupt, this is Deborah. This was put out for bid, the normal bid process, and all of the estimates or all of the bids that were received were at least 2 times higher than expected. So it was a significant bid higher than what we were expecting. So
Deb, I think Tony's talking about somewhere we came up with an estimate before it was bid, correct?
Right.
I think that's what Tony's talking about. Tony, is that accurate?
That is correct.
Yeah.
The only way Deborah can tell us that the bids from the contractors came in double what we had anticipated is because somebody provided an estimate that was half of what the contractors were estimating. So if that becomes a pattern, let's help that person or that firm that they become.
Yeah, we were actually going off of other bids that had been put out recently, such as the Lifeways bid. So the construction at Lifeways, we were actually utilizing actual bids that had already been accepted and construction was ongoing. So we were going off of those projects.
Yeah, and it's fair to say too that, hate to say it, but with COVID, construction materials are extremely high. I think even double on many things. So, but looking forward, I'm sure they'll get it right. Thank you both. Lydia, go ahead.
Okay, Dave, I won't talk.
As far as community engagement goes, obviously we've had to change up a lot of our normal engagement because of COVID. We were able to still hold a socially distanced cornhole tournament on the grounds here at the shelter. We had a lot of local businesses that sponsored the event and a good turnout for a first event. We still have volunteer orientations going on. They're just at a smaller scale. We were able to go back to legacy assisted living for some dog therapy visits outside. And we participated in the empty shelter events on July 8th, or July and October this year. And then this is just a few pictures of the cornhole event with our volunteers and our resident dogs providing the therapy to the residents at Legacy. We continue to provide food for any Jackson County residents that are in need. We have also went back to our pre-COVID business hours to better serve the community. We still do not close for lunch, and there's not a set day or time. Anyone can come get food anytime that we are open. We're continuing to grow our reach on social media. We recently had a adoption post that went viral and reached an international and national audience, resulting in some of our adoptable dogs being featured on the Hallmark Channel. We're currently up to over 36,000 followers now. Animal Control is really doing a great job. You can see from the second quarter, we about doubled, more than doubled the response calls. Bite calls have also significantly increased during this time. A lot of people are home, kids are home. Those calls have gone up quite dramatically. 304 dogs running at large in this third quarter. So most all the numbers for Animal Control have gone up in the third quarter. We are looking at bringing on a third animal control officer as a part-time capacity. And then at some point we expect that position to become full-time, but we're wanting to follow what the needs are to make sure that everyone's staying busy and that money is well utilized. We continue dog licensing at the shelter. Another significant increase, 84 licenses sold from the shelter this quarter. Our adoptions and intake, frankly, we were closed for a good bit of the second quarter. So our intake is up from 240 in the second quarter to 593. As we continue to offer spay and neuter to our community, the intake of 123 is included in that intake number because we intake those animals as here for a clinic. So they're included in our intake numbers. 129 dogs went back to their owners and adoptions have doubled. Cat intake has been quite a lot. 864 cats came into the shelter in this third quarter. 499 adoptions. Again, that 169 is animals that were just here for spay and neuter. We have had a very high demand for adoptions and oftentimes running out of dogs. So we've been working with other shelters in Michigan and shelters in desperate need in the South to meet the demand of our adopters, also keep our staff, working and making sure that we're providing a good service to the community when it comes to having adoptable dogs, and likewise helping out shelters that are in a more difficult position. So we've had a very good response to that, and we'll do that as needed.
Lydia?
Yes.
Can you expand on that just a little bit? When my recollection is that we've done this a number of times, maybe even traveling to pick up puppies, and that ends up typically not costing us anything. And it also brings more residents into the shelter where adult dogs end up getting adopted when we have any. Is that fair to say?
It's fair. For example, the transport we just did last week, it was a 1-day trip. We met the transport from the south halfway. The animals came back Thursday night. They were all adopted on Friday, and including we had only 2 adoptable dogs in the shelter at the time. And we reduced the adoption fee for our resident dogs to help get them adopted. So by the end of Friday afternoon, we had 0 adoptable dogs in the shelter because our resident adult dogs were adopted as well.
And you did not waive the fee for these puppies that came, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
They're yes, we're able to reduce our resident adoption fees because of the revenue that comes in from the puppies.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Question.
Go ahead, Phil.
How much the dogs we import from the south, what's the adoption fee on those?
Puppies are adoption fee of $200.
Oh, okay. And you use that to help lessen the cost of adopting out
Right.
full-grown dogs.
Yep. For example, I think there was 33 puppies that came in Thursday. They were each $200 adoption fee. And actually there was 1 adult that came in. That was one of the adults that we had here, a black lab. So we actually had 1 resident dog that we reduced their adoption fee to $50, that dog was also adopted on Friday.
Good. Excellent program. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And just to note, all these dogs do come vaccinated and everything that they need to enter the state of Michigan. So those initial intake items, medical items that we would do on animals that come to the shelter, that's already done when they arrive here in Michigan.
Lydia, all those new puppies, before they leave the shelter, they're all licensed?
They're not, because they're not old enough.
I see.
Yep.
Is there follow-up done though to make sure that they are or not? Or is that not a
Yes.
concern?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we do that. That is one of the benefits of being able to license here at the shelter is when rabies are done, then we can issue licenses as well.
Great. Thank you.
Our revenue in the, I did a lot of year to date. There's an increase in 2020 of 42.16%. The bulk of that came from adoption costs and donations. So even though we were closed for a period of time, we were still able to have an increase in revenue this year. Is there any questions about anything?
So Lydia, just back to that last screen for a second. So our revenue is up $80,000 over same period last year?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioners, any questions for Lydia? If so, please raise your hand. Hearing none. Lydia, thank you for the great work that you're doing out there.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I hope you all have a great day.
You too. Okay, takes us to, if somebody's available from Circuit Court. Deb, anybody showing up? I don't see. Oh, Charles is here. Okay. Good morning, Charles. Hello, Charles Atkins. Charles, are you with us? Deb, you texting him or?
Yes, I can. He shows on the participant list, so I'm not
Yeah,
sure what happened.
Yeah, I see him on the screen there too without video, but I'd rather get his done before we jump into all the JC stuff. I think he disappeared from our meeting. Yep.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Bill.
yeah, we got some dead air time here. I'd just like to comment. I suppose, I don't know if Lydia's still around, but I think the animal shelter probably has to be one of the biggest success stories that Jackson County's had in a long time, as far as departments that have become operational or have been operational. Such an improvement. We didn't even have an animal shelter really, and for a while, and now we're getting ready to hire a third officer. We're
Yeah, I'm very,
almost
very happy for
to
where
the
that's
point where we're
gone.
profitable. Yeah, that is great job.
Charles, are you
That's
still
all.
there or are you there? Okay, we will hope that Charles can show up before the meeting's over, and we'll move on to item E, which is JC County Catch Basin Cleaning. Angela, I assume that you're going to be addressing those things.
I think so. Good morning.
It's all yours.
So the first item is the county catch basin cleaning. This contract is to clean and flush the existing catch basins on county roads. We had 2 contractors respond, and we are requesting award to United Resources. The annual cost is not to exceed $100,000, and it is included in JCDOT's operating budget for the year 2021. At this time, we ask for approval by the
Commissioners, any questions? And I see Tony, your hand's up. Tony, go ahead.
Good morning, Angela.
Good morning.
Having looking at hundreds of bid tabs, it's always a little surprising to me when one company can bid at 20% of what the other company is. It's good to see the lower price, but it also makes me cautious. Can they actually do it for that price? Do we have experience with this company? Do we know the quality of their work?
We do not have experience with them, but we did call MDOT. MDOT has experience with them, and they speak highly of them, and felt that we would have no problems using them.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioners, any other questions? Okay, it looks like this goes to the full board, so we'd be looking for a motion. Motion by Tony, supported by Darius. All those in favor, please show the sign. Carries unanimously. Takes us to the state catch basin cleaning, Angela.
So this is pretty much identical to the first one. This is just for state roads. We had the same 2 bidders. So we're recommending award to United Resources again. And the annual cost is not to exceed $60,700 for this one, which would be reimbursed by the state on the contract.
Commissioners, any questions on this one? It's kind of a repeat of the last one. If not, a motion's in order. Tony and Rodney. All those in favor, please show the sign. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Angela. Next is the chloride tanks, storage tanks, Angela.
So this one is new. In previous years, we have gotten a rental from the company that provides the liquid. This year, we have so many trucks rolling out from the state fleet to our other garages that we feel it's prudent to buy new tanks to put out, well, used tanks to put out there. So this is requesting the purchase of 4 used chloride storage tanks from Rain for Rent for a cost of $8,000 each and a total cost of $33,553.64 to place at our outlying garages in Elm. This is for the storage of the liquid that was, I believe it was last month, was approved by the board for purchase to pre-wet our salts prior to placement to minimize the bounce.
Angela, chloride, I think, is pretty corrosive. The tanks are used, but they're in good shape, I assume?
Yes.
Okay. And the delivery fee is $15.53 for all of them, not per tank, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions on this? And I believe this gets approved here at committee.
I
Tony?
believe so.
Yeah, a couple questions. Are we renting these tanks or are we purchasing these tanks?
Purchasing them from the Rain to Rent.
Okay, then the documents presented here, I need some clarification on. If you look at page 4 of 15, start under the customer responsibilities paragraph. We have to provide, it says we have to provide the cleaning and flushing of rental tank prior to pickup. If you go to page 6 of 15, let me scroll down to that page. Yeah, if you look at page at the 5th line on that paragraph, it talks about rental. Go down to the 11th line, it talks about rental. Go down to the 17th line, it talks about rental. There's all kinds of references in here to renting the tanks. If this contract is the scope of agreement keeps saying rent, and we think we're purchasing, I'm confused. What are we doing here?
I believe that that's just boilerplate language that's in their documents, but we are purchasing them, so they do not apply. The rental language does not apply.
If we are signing this as a contract, then it will apply. We should not accept their standard contract when we are not doing a standard contract with them.
There's no contract.
We are doing a different type of contract.
Angela, is it possible to get an updated document before our Tuesday night board meeting?
Yes, we can. There is not a contract for this.
Well, there's a scope of agreement that we need to sign, and the scope of agreement has a price on it. And the terms of that scope of agreement are not the terms that we are expecting.
Chairman, if I could jump in, this is Christopher.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, the vendor supplied that language with their quote, but none of that's going to apply, and we're actually not signing that. That's, in fact, we could have left it out of the board documents. I apologize, it was thrown in. It is just for rental type work. So
what are we signing?
Nothing. It's just a purchase order. Once the board approves it, we're buying it. We'll take delivery, and upon delivery and inspection, we cut a check. So there's no contract, no agreement. If we were renting, we would have to go through all that and sign that, but we're not renting.
Well, just a minute, Phil, just a minute. Chris, this document then is completely related to the time when we were renting from them, because this is the same company that we actually rented from, correct?
I believe so, yes. Mm-hmm.
Angela, or no?
I honestly don't know.
I think it's a different company.
I think it's a different company.
I think I read that in one of the original documents, but.
It's a different company.
It is a different company, yes.
Okay. Phil, go ahead.
We rent it from the supplier.
Can we just simply get a bill of sale when we cut the check?
That's what we will get, I believe.
Okay.
And I mean, 20 years from now, somebody else reads this contract and it clearly says rental, 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 and none of us may be alive. So we need a bill of sale.
Well, if 1 year from now, 2 years from now, somebody reads this contract, we do not want to end up in a situation like we had with the SRI, and the wording was not enforceable. We should not agree to anything that's not enforceable to the extent that we want it.
Gentlemen, my suggestion is that we approve the purchase of these tanks and also have these documents removed from board docs. Mike, is that something that can be done? Completely
Sure
removed?
can. I would just point out as well that on page 2 up there, where it actually has the price of the purchase, it says sale quotation. It's a quote, guys. It's not an agreement or anything. We're buying some tanks, and why we have all that additional information in here is not necessary, but clearly it says sale quotation on both pages 2 and 3 at the top, and it has a bottom line price.
I agree with all that, Mike, but all this other information shouldn't be in there. It is confusing. If somebody looks at it a year from now, they're going to wonder. And if we can solve it by assuming we approve the purchase, simply remove all these unrelated documents then from board docs, then that removes the problem.
We
I
can
agree.
request the vendor
It should
to.
be there, but it's just, you know.
Michael, on page 4 is titled sales quote.
Sale quote.
And that is where it starts having all of these rental terms.
Yeah.
So your document is not consistent.
Okay.
I don't want to end up into another SRI conflict. I will not vote for this until these things are consistent.
We can request the vendor to update the quote, possibly.
You
Yeah,
can.
sure we can.
Sure. And again, assuming that we get a positive vote on this, it will be contingent on removing all these documents from board docs. It's pretty simple. We're purchasing tanks. We know the amount. We're not agreeing to these things that we see documented here. So let's remove them from board docs, and it removes all of that. And we're making a purchase. And I think that solves the problem. If somebody's willing to make the motion, otherwise I will, but that would be what my motion would be.
Mr. Chair, before we make the motion, I just have a quick question.
Darius, go ahead.
Thank you. So I see we're buying the tanks used. What is the life expectancy of those?
Christopher, do you know?
We'll do inspections routinely of these, but I would expect at least a 10, possibly 20-year life.
Okay, and if we were to buy just a used or a new tank, would it be longer than that or about the same?
It would definitely be much more expensive. Our team did cost benefit that, and we felt this was the best value. That's why we sought the used tanks.
Okay. Well, with that, I have nothing further. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nothing else.
Any other questions, commissioners? Tony. Tony.
You're muted.
Unmute, please. Unmute, Tony.
Been attempting, couldn't get the screen up. These are steel tanks. We expect them to perform for a while. They're steel, so they can corrode and they can leak. Are we putting these in an area where we have secondary containment in case they do leak? Is that needed for calcium chloride?
So because they're mobile, it's not required, but we will follow best practices with these.
Which is what?
The garages, like the Parma garage, for instance, it's going in between two areas, and I believe there's a diking system already in place. I don't know specifically but we will follow best practices. Christopher, do you know any more details as far as placement?
No, you said it well, Angie. We will, in fact, make sure that there is precautionary measures in place at each location.
Thank you.
But as Angie alluded to, we have researched this, and there is no requirement for mobile tanks to have diking and so forth. However, as you know, we go above and beyond requirements to make sure that we're minimizing risks and following best practices. Thanks.
Okay, so if there are no further questions, we're looking for a motion that's hopefully inclusive of removing these documents from board docs. And it will be for a purchase of these tanks as noted in board docs. Looks like Rodney and Phil with a motion. All those in favor, please make the sign. Looks like it passes unanimously. Okay, takes us to the underbody blades. Angela.
Okay, so we are requesting award to Michigan Cat at the cost of $73,936. We use these blades for primarily snow removal, but we also use them on our graders for grading gravel roads. Unfortunately, because of the steel prices, they will only lock in their price for 90 days. So this will be a one-time purchase for next year's blades. We did have 5 companies submit prices. Michigan Cat is it was the lowest bid, and we're recommending approval or to purchase from them. And it is in the JCDOT's 2020 budget for road maintenance, and any blades that are used on the state trunk line will be reimbursed by MDOT. So again, we're requesting approval to purchase from Michigan Cat at a cost of $73,936.
Okay. Any questions, commissioners? Tony?
Yes, looking at the provided document here, Calhoun County and Jackson County requests for bids. That's the document I'm looking at. If you go down to page 5, it talks about how under the, I think it's page 5 of 22. There's a paragraph, oh yeah, the first paragraph, additional insured. So this document says that the Calhoun County is listed under the insurance contracts of this vendor. So if we're sued, Calhoun County is protected, but Jackson County is not listed there as an additional insured. Should we be?
I believe there's no, I'm not sure why it says that, but there's no insurance needed because it's a purchase.
Okay, page 14 of these 22. Scrolling down to it. We've got listed here, paragraph 3.2 is what Calhoun County is getting. 3.1 is what Jackson County, where's Jackson County list? I'm sorry.
They're both in 3.2.
Yeah. Okay. So that says we're getting 800 3/4 inch by 8 inch by 72 inch blades. It doesn't say whether they are the single bevel or the double bevel. There's a difference in price.
We're getting single.
You're getting the single bevel?
Yes.
Okay.
The single bevels last much longer, so it's actually better value, even though the pricing on the double bevel was lower for one of the vendors.
Yeah. Well, then on page 20 of 22, I'm scrolling down to it here. Jackson County, they've got us listed for both single bevel and double bevel, 800 of each.
We wanted to analyze the costs that were submitted before we decided what we'd purchase.
That's the option, Tony. You can see it's blank on the number.
Yep, they all are. Okay, so we are getting 800 single bevel blades is what you want to purchase.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, so assuming that we get approval for this, Angela or Chris, could somebody double check on the insured part that Tony talked about? I think that is relevant, just to at least know whether Calhoun County's in there in error or if Jackson County's in error by not being in there.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioners, we're looking for a motion on this that gets approved at the committee level here. Motion by Phil, supported by Tony. All those in favor, please make the sign. Passes unanimously. Takes us to the I-94 design build contract.
Okay, so
Angela.
this is a contract similar to the one we did for the Cooper Street roundabouts. This is for improvements for the 94 interchange at Elm and the US 127 West Avenue interchange. It's a design build contract that MDOT has out, I believe, next month. The total cost to Jackson County would be $513,100 to improve those two interchanges. The Elm Road would be the roundabouts north of 94, and then the 127 West Avenue are the monument signs that are in the board packet. We request the board to approve that. We have worked that into our budget to allow for that to be built and improved.
So, Angela, this goes to the full board. The first question from me is, in particular with Elm Road, is there water and electricity that'll be going to the roundabout north of the highway?
Yes, so water, electricity, and lighted signs, looks like.
And is Blackman Township participating in the financial of that or not?
Not of that, they're placing water main on that project, so they're participating in the project, but not on the roundabouts, I believe.
And what about the any ongoing costs related to bringing utilities, water and electricity to the roundabout? Whose responsibility is that?
JC Dots.
Any idea what that'll be on an ongoing basis?
Ooh, I do not. Christopher, do you have?
Just be for irrigation of the center part of the roundabout and a nominal lighting fee. Less than 100 a month, I'm sure, for both.
Okay. Commissioners, questions? Tony?
Chris, the irrigation that you'd spoken about, I presume that's coming underground?
Yes, indeed. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so this, if approved, this goes to the full board. If there are no other questions, a motion's in order to send it on. Motion by Tony, supported by Phil. All those in favor, please make the sign. Carries unanimously. Thank you. Angela, encroachment policy. Oh, I'm sorry, private road acceptance policy.
So this, if you remember, wow, it's been over a year ago that we had some private roads that we brought to the board for approval. And at that time, the board asked us to work on a policy for accepting private roads. So here it is before you. And it's actually kinder, gentler than a lot of other agencies in the state. A lot of them will not accept a new private road into the system unless it's a court order. So we've wrote it where it's pretty much in the board's hands to decide if they want to accept the private road. It follows all guidance that we have as far as laws for accepting them. Any questions?
Oh, I have a couple of comments, Angie. I read this last night and it seems like a pretty simple policy, but it's, in my opinion, almost too simple. And is it fair to say that if this is adopted, the policy would still be to bring it to the Board of Commissioners?
Correct.
And if I recall right, I think the project that brought it to a head was a project in Leone Township on Ann Arbor Road. And would it be your opinion right now under this policy that you would recommend bringing that into the county road system, that particular road, or not?
So yeah, our recommendation wouldn't change unless they withdrew their ability or willingness to mill and resurface that road. At the time, they were willing to put a new surface on that. and it met all of our county standards. So our recommendation was to accept that into the county road system. So when we evaluate the road, we look at the footprint of the road and how it's built, the testing, the engineering, and make a recommendation truly based on that.
I see you there, Mr. Chair. I got one more quick question first. Angie, another issue I recall with that project was who was putting forth the request and who actually owned the road. I think that was in question at the time, was it not?
Yes, and I'm not sure that the township has figured that out yet.
And, but the problem that I have is I don't see that addressed anywhere here in the policy. And I wonder, should it be? So, and I figured there couldn't be an answer to that one, but Chairman Shotwell, you had a question or a point?
I didn't have a question, David. I wanted to speak to what occurred on the Ann Arbor Road issue. I really think that that it depends on also the development pathway on whether we accept the road or not, because I think we're going to probably want to work with Blackman Township to accept their road into their new development. It depends again on what the thought is and what we're developing on the property also that needs to be taken into consideration. That's all.
I thought about that very thing last night as I was reading this policy, and one of the differences is if Blackman Township or the LDFA requests that, it's a government doing it for multiple businesses. And I think some of us saw that particular project in Leone as a little bit different. And I think one commissioner that's a business person asked if they could put a road into their facility and then turn it over to the county, and it really looked quite similar. He wasn't asking it with sincerity, being facetious, but so I'm not so sure that I like this policy, but I'll open the floor up for the other commissioners. Anybody that's got a question or want to state their feelings on it. Tony.
Thank you. My recollections of the road in Leone that was asked to be made a public road, it looked like they had developed a private drive way to the back of the property where they built their business. They appeared to be almost the only business on that road. So by getting it dedicated, they got free winter snow removal. I don't want to get into a situation where a company develops a long driveway back into their property, builds it to county standards, and thereby we have to provide their snow removal. There's got to be more than just one business on it. So somehow, can we take that into consideration in this policy?
So any other questions, commissioners, or points? And I do have a suggestion. I think I would be more comfortable actually if we had this as a topic for a study session, hopefully when we're all back together again, meeting in person, that we could sit down and hash it out. We can certainly, if somebody's desiring to make a motion to approve this policy, we can. I think I'm going to vote no right now. I just want to put more thought into it myself. But so what's the pleasure of the committee? Does anybody want to send this policy forward to the full board right now?
I would ask David, this is the chairman, I would ask that you redirect this to the administrator controller's office and have him look at between now and the end of the year, one of the study sessions, getting it on there and letting us review it and then bring it through the cycle again, please.
Okay, with no motion coming forward. Mike, are you clear on that, director from the committee?
Yeah, I understand. I would just encourage the board to separate any particular roads or issues you know of from the policy. The policy should be standing on its own legs, and then how you apply it to whatever roads they bring forward in the future is obviously up to the board. But you don't want them tied together per se.
Yeah, I agree. But Mike, I think it's also important to have safeguards in there so that we don't end up like last time where we have a request to convert one over to a public road and we don't even know who owns the property. I think that should be part of the process too. But so you'll bring
frankly,
it back.
who owns the property is, you don't want to get into all that, because now you're picking in winners and losers and discrimination and all kinds of other issues you raise when you start picking those kind of things. It doesn't matter who owns the property, but your policy should say And this policy does say it. It says the road fits into and augments, it's those things. If it doesn't meet those requirements in your mind as a board, well, then you don't adopt that road. But you don't want to get into anything about who owns what.
You misunderstand my point. My point is if Mr. Green owns the property and Mr. Adams is making the request, that doesn't fly. You follow what I'm saying? I think that was the case.
Mr. Green owns the road or something like that, the private drive.
Right. You can't have one person that has no ownership interest in the road making the request. And that's what we had at that time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
We didn't know. That's what my concern is. So you're tasked with bringing that back to study session before the end of the year for us?
Sure, no problem.
Very good. I appreciate JC that bringing this forth. And that takes us to the encroachments policy.
Okay, so this is an updated policy. Basically, it is in line with the Public Act 368 of 1925. I think. Any questions?
Commissioners, any questions on this one? And if approved, this will go to the full board as well. So Angie, just one question for me, I guess. Does this policy lay out a procedure for going out and looking for encroachments, or is it a policy that simply deals with them as we become aware of them?
It lays out when we become aware of it, but we are proactive, or we try to be proactive with encroachments.
Okay. Any committee members first with questions? I see no hands coming up. Commissioner Pileski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the privilege of asking a question. I see that it provides for a 30-day period of notification to the landowner. What if there were something, what if the encroachment rose to the level of a safety issue? Is there some policy that you already have that can deal with something with greater speed than that?
Christopher, do you know the answer to that? Or Bruce is on? Is Bruce on?
Well, the statute doesn't allow it. I don't know if Bruce has audio. He could jump in. He did a lot of homework and research on this, but I think we would use our judgment on that. Hold on. Yeah, he says it's a statutory requirement for the 30 days.
That's what I thought, yeah.
If we had a serious safety issue, I would, yeah, we would try our best to address it with the landowner.
Okay. Thank you for that, and thank you, Commissioner Pileski. Any other questions? Tony?
Where does a citizen go to look up the right-of-way distance so citizens can determine if what they're doing for landscaping is in the right-of-way or if it is not? Where can I look that up?
I would recommend they call our office and we would provide them that information.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no further questions, this would go to the full board. Is there a willingness to make a motion? Well, for purpose of discussion, I'll move that we send this to the full board. Is there a support for it? Supported by Tony. All those in favor, please make the sign. Passes unanimously. Thank you. It takes us down to the monthly report.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so this month, one of our highlights that we have is a project that we're doing on our state maintenance contract for MDOT. It's a mill and fill spot paving on US 127. We actually, it's a total of $900,000 that they found at the end of the year that we are looking to spend for them by doing this. It's very unique. I think Christopher has talked about it prior to in a board meeting to you guys, but I think we're probably one of the only agencies in the state that has been able to do this with the state. So actually have our crews work on it. So it's exciting and it's going well. We, with our busy recycling projects, we're able to fit it in with some milling on the weekends, paving on the weekends, to get it done for them. And then this, you've been seeing this monthly, but this is our overall capital improvement plan map for the year. And it's updated as of 9/23. The Michigan Ave Bridge is going well. It should be open by the end of the month. The bridge deck was poured and they are building the road approaches currently to the bridge. McDivitt Ave, the contract A is done except for the concrete pathway. And I believe they will be out there this week starting that. And that is Dunnigan's that's doing that. Contract B is going well. We are out there. I'm actually not sure if we're recycling today, but we were placing BAB Friday and Saturday, and we'll finish it up this week out there for the contractor to come in and pave. Concrete curb was being installed Saturday. You can see it in the far distance in this picture. And then on B, the pathway is being built at the same time as the road. Hoffman Brothers is building that. King Road has been recycled, and I do not know, that will be again paving Wednesday, I believe, weather permitting. Lawrence Avenue is, all the concrete work is done and the paving will begin, I think this week. I'm not positive. I'd have to check with Charlie and get you guys an email on that one. Michigan Ave is complete in Grass Lake, and I love this picture. It's a beautiful project. It turned out well for the village there. Oops. Summit Township, we continue working there. We're 88% complete with all of the roads in that project. Just some pictures of the project as it goes. Blackman Township is 69% complete. And these percents that I say, it's based on 100% complete. Slope restoration, everything is done. So they're at various stages. A lot of them are paved, like you can see on the map, but they still need slope restoration and the finishing touches done to the project. Mailboxes moved, that type of thing.
Angela, can I ask a question about Blackman? Two questions, actually.
Yes.
Will the construction be complete next year, or is it going to be moved out to a third year? Number one.
Third year.
Okay. And you've got a project going right now on Springport, north of Airport to Rive Junction Road. And I think you've milled that and are going to pave over that then, correct?
You said on Springport Road?
Right. Springport from the Springport Airport County Farm intersection up to Rive Junction Road.
That is the federal aid project. So we recycled that, and I believe they paved that last week. At least the base course I know was paved last week. So
yeah, wasn't complete. But my question is, at the north end of that, there is about 300 or 400 feet of road that was not milled and looks like it's not going to be replaced, and that's just before Rive Junction Road. And then at Rive Junction Road, it's new asphalt that starts on County Farm. Is that going to be done as well or not?
So that intersection, if you've drove the turn lane going to go north on Rives, you'll feel the transition is not good. We are looking at a fix for that, a safety improvement there. But I believe the plan is to, I'll have to look into it, but the plan was to just resurface that section so that we can reconstruct that.
I see. Okay, thank you.
So recycling, Mother Nature's on our side right now. We have had some good weather to continue. McDivitt, as I said, will be done the end of this week. Reynolds Road is in progress and should be done middle of this week. And then we'll move to our last two roads for the season, weather permitting, which is Cox and Matthews replacement. Here's the Springport Road you were talking about. It's in the recycling because we recycled it on our dime and then did all the paving with the federal aid grant. And then we did 2 timber decks this month. Cornell Road Bridge was assembled and placed. And I do not believe that one has been paved yet. There's some pictures of it and the crew, the wonderful crew that does awesome work for us out on these timber decks. And then Kennedy Road actually was not supposed to be paved, but we had a down day last week. So they got out there, I believe, and paved that surface. So we'll get a picture of that for you guys for next month. This is Lee Chamberlain cleaning out debris from the river while we're out there. And then our bio restore for the season. I think we've been asked in past presentations about this. So we got this slide to show you guys the, this was treated approximately an hour ago. So you can see it's kind of a darker black. And then this part's treated or being treated, obviously. And this is the untreated road. So this here, the darker black is what a road looks like at the end of the treatment. Did you have a question?
So Angie, that gray part is being treated, right? That's,
yep.
Okay.
Yep, so that's the treatment being distributed on it. And that's what it looks like until it dries and looks like this. And then this is our cruise fog sealing Hinckley chip seal. And then our first round of paving marking is complete for the season. And then just a picture showing what our contracted crews do for us. We watch over them and they clear our canopy. So this is a before with low hangers, and then after they've got it trimmed up nicely for the trucks to go through. Any questions?
Commissioners, any questions for Angie? You can get rid of that screen. There we go. Great.
Yep.
Commissioners, any questions? Committee members first, any questions? Seeing none, Corey?
I don't have a question, just a comment. I had a resident who had some issues with a current repave that was done, and I called Christopher and he took care of that. There was someone out there to address it with him personally, not in a matter of days, but within a matter of hours. And I really, really appreciate that. And the resident was very pleased as well. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
That was Jim Cole from our office. He's very responsive. He's the project manager for all of the township work.
Thanks, Angie. Tony?
Angie, you had said that the pavement marking contract is complete for this year?
Yes. So our county one, if you're asking what the other one going on is, that federal aid job that's doing just edge whites. It was a safety grant we got.
Okay, so the work that you have recently done on Springport, it looks great. It has not been paved, center line, or painted. Is that going to be completed yet this year?
Yeah, so the projects that are getting done right now, we'll have the contractor come back in and get them, weather permitting, get them here in the next. I think we can do it into November if we're lucky, but as soon as they're done, we'll get them painted. Springport though, sorry, Springport is the federal aid job, so that one will be done by that contract.
Thank you.
A lot of moving parts with paint.
Any other questions, commissioners? If not, JC. Chris and Angie, thanks for the great work you do. I've had the same experiences with residents that Corey just talked about. Happens on a fairly regular basis, and they're always right on top of it. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay. That completes the JC. Business, I do believe. That takes us back to item C. Charles, are you still with us?
Good morning, everyone.
Charles, I see you on there twice. but at least we can hear you. At least we can hear you.
Well, I do apologize for the technology issues that we had. I kept getting knocked off, and then I'd get back on, and then I could hear you, and you couldn't hear me. So I do apologize for that, but at least we're back to normal.
You're here now, and go ahead, Charles.
Okay. Well, I think that Jeremy covered most of our building public access updates on how we're controlling access into the building to the clerk's office and the other offices. Overall, that's working fairly well. We have little glitches here and there. He did mention when we get quite a few of our jurists using Zoom, we do get bottlenecks, but IT and Michelle has been great to help us kind of navigate through some of those issues. The vast majority of our hearings are being held by Zoom. Most folks, including the attorneys, are finding it more efficient for themselves to not have to be in person. It'll be interesting to see later on how much when we do are able to open further. But overall, our experience has been pretty positive with that. We're busy working on the Child Care Fund end of the year reports and things like that, and we'll be doing that for the next month or so. We continue to work with the MIDC as they continue to expand their hearings and taking more of our hearings on. We're still looking at Raise the Age. That still remains an upcoming 2021 issue. You know, haven't seen any funding mechanism to help us with some of those challenges, but we continue to work on those. Overall, things in our courts are, you know, moving along, and I'll answer any questions that anyone has.
Charles, I've got a couple of quick questions for you. One, if I recall right, I think the governor is going to be signing automatic expungement legislation. Is that going to create any more work for the courts, do you think?
I haven't seen the legislation, but it could increase numbers of requests for hearings because in a lot of cases, like the marijuana ones that were, you know, possession charges and others from before, I've heard some talk that those might be automatically done, but any other that might be included in that legislation would most likely request a hearing. The person would have to file a motion and bring it before a judge. How much work that will be, we'll have to see. But if you get hundreds of those across all the courts, it would cause some additional work, but we'll get through it.
Thank you. And then my second question, Charles, looking at your one-page document attached to board.
I apologize. My quarterly financial did not get uploaded. I just saw that, so I will send that on to the committee. But we are under budget. Yeah, that's what I was going to comment. It looks, by the document that's up there, what I'm looking at, 2020 in comparison to 19, the numbers are fairly close on cases, revenue, both of them, only off by a little bit from what I'm seeing on that. Commissioners, for being closed a couple of months, things have caught up.
Right. Okay, commissioners, any questions for Charles? Darius, did I see your hand go up? No? Okay. Okay, I think we're set, Charles. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Commissioners, that takes us down to 5 other business claims. We need to pay the bills, and feel free to stop down and look at them and sign, please, when you have time. So a motion by Phil, supported by Tony. All those in favor, please make the sign. Passes unanimously. Other minutes and the reporting schedule are there. Takes us back to public comments. Michelle, any public comments this time around?
No public comments.
Thank you for your fine work. Committee member comments, any additional commissioner comments? Hearing none, we're adjourned.